Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Cathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters, and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
Hey, Laura, how you going?
Cathy, hello. Season 2, hello. Here we are.
I know, here we are. It's been so great.
It has. We're just kind of warming up, aren't we? We're kind of getting ready.
We
It's
sure are.
a whole new season to look forward to. And yeah, we're pumped. And
The planning that we've been doing
yeah.
and the talking to the incredible women. There are so many stories out there.
Yeah.
So many.
I know. We're just going to have to do this is just going to have to be a 750 episode season. I think that's
I think
just
so.
keep on
Yep.
keeping on.
Yep. So what have you been up to?
Well,
since
first
we
of
last
all,
spoke?
yes, I just wanted to start season 2 by saying a big happy birthday to my co-host Cathy, who is 53 on the day that this episode drops. So I think we have to recognise that and give you a little round of applause. I don't know, a cheer, a hug, or something.
Group hugs.
Group
And
hug.
while we're talking about birthdays, you
Mm.
have just celebrated a birthday only
Yes.
2 weeks ago as well.
Yes,
So
I
we
know.
are very close in birthdays.
We
And
are.
so how old were you, my dear?
I was 45, which felt, official in the sense that it's one of those 5 numbers, a 5 or a 0. It feels kind of like a midway birthday, and it felt like a big number. Like I felt like early 40s, good, mid 40s. Oh, this is new to me. So I'm just getting my head around it really. I'm very happy and very privileged to still be alive and kicking at 45, and so I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Yes. Well,
How about 53? How does it feel?
officially I'm 53, but
Yeah.
technically I'm not. I
Okay.
mean, this is a conversation.
Please explain.
Well, it's a conversation that I have with my children that has
Mhm.
only come up since COVID, of course,
Okay.
because I was meant to turn 50. Well, I did turn 50 technically
Mm.
during COVID in 2021. I turned 50. But 50 to me was meant to be celebrated in Fiji.
Mm.
And
Oh.
I couldn't celebrate 50 in Fiji during 2021. I actually did sneak in a celebration. I had a really fabulous celebration with some absolutely gorgeous mates in the city, and we went to this really fancy restaurant that I would never have gone to, didn't even know existed. And we had a night in the city, and then we came home and celebrated with more family and friends the next day. But because I wasn't in Fiji, I say I didn't turn 50 until the following year when I was actually in Fiji.
Oh.
And my family tell me that that's not kind of how it works, but I kind of think anything goes during COVID years, really.
Yeah, I think you have to make up for that lost time. So fair enough. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know about you, but birthdays always make me feel reflective. I just thought we could start this episode by talking about maybe some of the things that these big birthdays or just birthdays as we get older,
Mm.
they're not so big really, have made us think about as turning 53 or 52 made you think about anything in particular, any changes that have occurred in your life in the last 12 months that you have reflected upon?
Look, I've changed jobs a couple of
Mm.
times, but that seems to be kind of a bit of a theme for me in
Mm,
my life. So, as much as that sort of might be reflective, it's not really. I'm really in the middle of the sandwich generation, I think,
mm,
is probably the big thing for me. My parents are moving house, so we've been helping them pack up and move into a smaller home. So they're downsizing. They're really
mm,
downsizing this time. They haven't really in the past. So that makes me a little reflective around, remembering memories as you're packing things up and as you find things and, do we want to keep this? Are we, are we letting go of these things? What do you keep? Because you can't keep everything. We've had some beautiful times with my parents as we've been packing things up. My kids have been amazing and really helping their grandparents. And so that's been quite a special time. And I think it's important to really remember that that is a special time where not everyone is privileged to be able to spend time packing your life up, unpacking, we're gonna unpack it at the other end,
Yeah,
move
yes, yeah.
into a beautiful villa, with a gorgeous water views, and it's going to be lovely for them, and it's very exciting, but it just does make me reflect a little bit.
It's emotional.
It is, and, you
Mm,
know, knowing that I'm significantly older than my mother was when her parents passed away, that
mm,
makes me sort of remember my grandparents and wish that there was times that I could have shared things with them,
mm,
and I feel a bit robbed because they went quite young, um,
mm,
but it is what it is. That's just the way life is, unfortunately, and, yeah, so I guess I'm just reflecting on that it is a privilege to still be here today. It's a privilege to be able to talk to people, to have these amazing, incredible chats that we have. And if I'm reflecting on anything, it's probably that I really love what we're doing with
mm,
our podcast, and it's a joy in me, and it fills me with a feel good sense of happiness um,
mm.
that I often don't have in other aspects of my life. When I know that I'm going to get to record with you, or we're going to talk to some of the incredible women that we've spoken to either last season, this season, or that we're planning to speak to in, further seasons. We've
Humming seasons, yeah.
have so many. There's a
Mm,
list. There are people reaching out to us saying that
mm.
they want to talk to us. So it's exciting.
Yeah, that's so true. It is exciting and it's lovely to share this with you, but also have these brilliant chats and conversations with interesting people and women. And
Mm,
yeah, it is very fulfilling, isn't it? So, God, aren't we lucky just to do
we
that? We
are.
can
And
reflect upon that and feel happy with that.
absolutely. And I think sometimes the chats that we have with these incredible women, they make me reflect and make me think.
Mm,
And they challenge me to kind of get out of my little bubble and think, oh, hang on, I
mm.
could think of it from a different perspective.
Yeah, my sort of reflections upon turning 45 were possibly not quite so reflective in the way that really genuinely were going through your parents' things and sorting stuff out. That's a very it's a milestone, really, isn't it? Moving your parents into their new place. I think that's really big. I had a moment the other day. I was walking, went for a walk. As part of the last 12 months, I've really tried to up my own self care by going for my daily walk in nature. And over the weekend, the kids were away, and I had this amazing time to myself. And I went through the bush, listening to my classical music, looking at birds, thinking, geez, I am middle aged because I was enjoying the nature. I was enjoying the classical music. I was enjoying spotting my birds. And I realized that to me 10 years ago probably would have been quite awful, hell, sign of being old. And don't get me wrong, like I still like a night out on the gay dance floor, bopping to Britney or what have you. But also realizing that I really am I'm leaning into midlife perhaps with my twitching and my classical music and my bushwalks, and it's gonna be sensible shoes and all the things all the way, but I'm okay with it. I actually really I don't know. I find it really lovely and relaxing. I'm okay with those things. I'm okay with 2 things can be this, I can enjoy the pop music, I can enjoy the classical music, I can enjoy the nature, I can also enjoy a good bar. It's all
Yep.
right. And that's the joy of being midlife because you just don't give a shit anymore about what you should and shouldn't be enjoying or what is old or young or whatever. I just like, fuck it. I just really like these things and I'm just going to do them because they're good for me and I'm happy
Yep.
doing
And
them.
I think that is, we are getting to that age, or we are that age
Yeah.
where we give less fucks about
Yes.
people think
Yeah.
and care more about what we want and what our loved ones, want or what we want for our loved ones, you know? That's
Mm.
what matters, and we really care less about the things that don't matter anymore.
That's right. It's really it's quite liberating and lovely in so many ways. But I'm gonna just offset that by saying that I've been on a sock journey, which is completely opposite to what I've just said about not giving it less, well, giving less fucks and listening to classical music. I was like, I feel the need to upgrade my socks. I bought these little anklets that I've noticed the young people are wearing. I don't know why. I just thought, why not? Just give it a
But are
try.
they anklets or are they like further up? Aren't
No,
they
I can't do
like
the further up ones because they cut into the calf, and my teenage son has some like that, and they look cool on the young.
do they?
Like I don't
Do
know.
they?
They look. What can I say? They're trendy, right? Do they look cool? I don't know. I'll look back on these silly little ankle socks probably in 10 years and go, "What was I thinking?" But I guess I just thought,
So
what's
you're going for the ones that are
the
slightly
mid-size.
higher than the shoe
Yes.
line.
That's
Yeah.
right, because 'cause I've had the
Yeah.
shoe line ones for many years. You couldn't s I haven't thought about my socks for probably 20 years. They've been hidden in my shoe, and now I've gone up, the socks up, and, I'm just trying it out, Kathy. I just this
That
could be
is quite the discovery, really, isn't it?
it's
Quite
a bit
the
sad,
adventure.
really. It's quite the adventure. I went and bought all different ones, little curly top ones, straight top ones, stripy ones, see-through ones. Oh, I've got a whole new sock drawer. It's just it's
And what did
liberating.
you do with all your old socks,
I
Laura?
threw out a lot of the shit ones, the
Right,
holy ones. It was time for them to go. Honestly,
okay.
some of them were so bad. Jules was like, "This is good. This is a good thing. You're sorting out your sock drawer." Also, a very midlife thing to get joy from,
I
sorting the sock drawer.
feel like it's a little bit like when I moved from the G-string to the big
Ooh,
bloomer, like,
yeah. I love the big bloomers. I've never been a big
so
G-string
comfy.
fan.
Yeah, oh, look,
Yeah.
I
Briefly,
was
dallied.
I
Yeah.
was
Did
in
you?
my
Okay.
20s. Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved a, G-string,
Little G. Mm.
little G, and then I think kids, and
Oh,
you're fishing it out of your bum while you're sort of bending over and trying to deal with children, and it was just like, "You know what? Give me a pair of Bonds, full
yeah,
brief
bonds.
Bonds full brief."
Yeah.
Bonds, we'd love a sponsor. Bonds full brief any day than over a G-string, and I feel like that's a very midlife thing to do, like
No,
upgrading your
I feel like I look at those period undies that like young
mm,
women are wearing. They're a full brief. Even if they go the G, which is probably back. It's back again because everything cycles through fashion, right? We're really in some kind of Y2K moment where the G is back. But I just no, I'm definitely not bringing that back for me. That's not
no,
coming back for me.
no, the G string is something on a guitar as far as I'm concerned. Is not something that I will be wearing. I mean, that's some of the very random thoughts that are going through our heads, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. Random reflections and personal changes. This episode, we've also been speaking about not only our own personal changes, but some of the things that conversations perhaps, we haven't really got a name for it. We were experimenting with some names, change chat, general
Mm,
chat, I don't know. But conversations that maybe we've been observing among women of our age that is definitely maybe a trend or just something a common experience for women in midlife. And I thought in this episode, I just wanted to touch on the conversation I'm having very frequently with women of my age, and that is a dissatisfaction in relationships. And I say that, I'm not obviously going to name any names of the women that I know in my life. And it's not just women that I know, it's just it's a subject that's so prevalent in like
mm.
literature, in TV shows, on podcasts. It's just a subject that over 40, over 50, divorce, we spoke about it last season actually when we were discussing the sort of not phenomenon, but a lot of women in midlife leaving their husbands and getting together with a woman and coming out and having this whole kind of midlife sexual liberation. And I think it's definitely I don't want to say trend. It's not a trend. I think unhappiness is not a trend, clearly, but there is something about midlife and feeling the well, feeling dissatisfied perhaps with your marital relationship, or the kids have grown up and you're looking around and you're going, okay, is this it for me?
Mm.
And I just think it's such an interesting, and I found an article which I'll talk about in a minute. But have you had this conversation? Have you had this experience, Kathy?
Definitely having similar chats,
Mm,
with, you know, lots of different people.
mm,
Again, not naming any names. I wonder if it sort of stems from that when our kids are little and we're
mm.
in it and, we're quite possibly unhappy then, but we're in it and we can't deal with it, or everything's put down to small kids,
Yeah.
and
Stressful
it's
time.
like
Yeah.
it's stressful time, and then you come out the other side and, kids are older and you don't necessarily have to spend so much time focused around children, because especially for a lot of the women that I know, um, they're mothers. I have to be honest and say, and this is a generalization,
Mm,
but I don't know very many. In fact, I don't think I can think of any in my wider circle, women who are childless, whether by
mm.
choice or by circumstance.
Child free. Yeah.
Yeah, you're child
Mm,
free.
mm,
So I guess I'm making the generalization around women who have children. And
mm,
I feel like that the conversation is we're very consumed by children for
mm.
a large portion of our lives, from birth, obviously, all the way through, they need us. And then they kind of get to school, and then it's sports and it's school sports and it's dance or it's this or that or whatever
Yeah. Life
on
is
the
super
weekend.
busy. Yeah.
There is lots of things
Yeah.
filling up
Mhm.
everyone's time. I'm going in one direction, someone else is going in another direction. We're all sort of who's taking Johnny here, who's taking Sarah there,
Yeah.
like
There's a
it's
lot of logistics involved, isn't there, in
lots
this
of
period of
conversations
life?
about
Yeah.
logistics as
Yes.
opposed to really making the time
Mm.
for each other.
Mhm.
And I think it's really easy, because I guess I'm kind of on the other side of it. My kids
Mm.
are grown. They don't need me as much. They still need me. My daughters do not have their driver's license. So there is still the logistics of getting them to and from work. Fortunately, they have discovered the Uber app. So, anyway, through the logistic years,
Mm.
we just get on and do.
Mm.
Unless things are really, really terrible, and
Mm.
obviously not talking about those really, really terrible relationships.
No,
I
that's right.
think
Yeah.
just for the main, normal, everyday, garden variety relationships, we get on and do. And we get through those logistical years, and then all of a sudden, we're like, "Oh,
Mm.
what do we do now?"
Mm.
And
Mm.
it might be that somebody suggests a drive across the Nullarbor, or it might be
Hmm. Doesn't sound appealing to me. It might be like someone suggests a surf trip.
or it might be that, you just haven't worked out what you want in
Mm.
your life going forward. Like, I don't know what I want. Like, everyone says to me, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And it's like, well, when I grow up, I'll let you know. I
Yeah.
just know that I wanna travel, like, I know I wanna travel, but I don't know where I wanna travel to. I can't sort of
So,
so
yeah, it's kind of like a conflict of interest. There's like you're
yeah,
not necessarily the same person you were when you married your partner, and
absolutely.
everybody changes, and everyone has different things that they want to achieve, and so then you wonder
And
where to next.
I think that we're in that stage of life, like we were just talking about, we just don't have time
Mm,
to give fucks about things we don't care enough about anymore.
mm, yeah.
And I wonder if it's an unhappiness. I wonder if it's a depression. I think women in their middle age are generally very quickly diagnosed with depression,
Mm,
when actually they could just be unhappy. Um,
mm. But also hormonal, right? So it could be
100%.
perimenopausal, and then you're like, well, throw that into the mix. If you're already unhappy in your relationship and your life is busy, and you add in some crazy raging hormones, it's a wild time. It's a wild time. It's not. It's an interesting time, such an interesting time of life, and I stand by that. I think we're very interesting people in this age group, but I also, yeah, it's hard to be, it's hard to be a midlife woman sometimes at work. It's hard to be a midlife woman when you've got so many pulls away. You've got your elderly parents, perhaps. You've got your teenage kids, or even in some cases, young kids. You're still managing quite a lot of, and then you've got to manage your relationship, right?
Yep,
That's the thing. You still have to manage it in the
yep.
same way you're going to manage the household. You're going to manage your career path and your trajectory and your health and your fitness and all the things that we're supposed to kind of be on top of as women. Don't let yourself go and still look good, but don't look too good because you might look like you've had too much work done and all the things. It's just such a fucking long list of
Yeah.
stuff. So it kind of makes sense that relationships fall into that category sometimes. And it could be, I can understand why, if you are unhappy and have been for some time, that get to this point in life and it's just like, oh my gosh.
I just don't, yeah, and
Mm.
I don't know that the answer is running away or divorce
No,
or
no,
any of
no.
those things, although
For some.
statistics would say that there
Mm.
are quite high divorce rates in
Mm.
women in their midlife. And I think the article that you were referencing that I
Yeah.
did have a read of indicated that actually women in their midlife women are the ones instigating a lot of divorces. And it's
Yes.
not for
Contrary
the
to popular belief.
reasons
Mm.
100%. It's not for the reasons that we would probably stereotypically think in the media or, TV or
Mm.
whatever, that it's, men looking for the younger wife or any of those things. It's
No.
really
It's
typical.
death by a thousand cuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that kind
Yeah.
of analogy where all these marriages have been just, going on and things have been falling off, whether that's, the husband's not picking up the domestic kind of duties in the way that the wife would like,
Leaving the
or the partner.
like the lid off the toothpaste.
Just get the toothpaste with the cap, people. Don't get the one with the
Oh,
lid.
no, no, leaves the
What?
cap off. Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Okay, I think I might
Yep.
be responsible for that in our house. So maybe
Yep.
I'm the skanky like cap lever offer.
But it's
um,
but it
yeah,
is
I
that.
know. It's
It's,
those
like,
little
it's those,
micro
yeah, those
aggressions, whatever. Mm,
microaggressions, or is that what
yeah.
they're called?
I
I don't
look just
know.
micro failings or something.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
aggression sounds quite, ugh,
Yeah,
like
a bit too
really,
much.
you know,
Yeah.
but it's those little micro things and, after 20 odd years, you kinda just
Mm.
go, "Ugh,
Ugh. Yeah,
can
it's
I
hard.
have
Yeah.
another conversation
Mm,
about picking up your jocks, or can I have another
mm.
conversation about what's for dinner?" You
Yeah, and do I
um,
want to have that
yeah,
conversation? And do I wanna have that conversation for another 25 years? I suppose that's kind of
yeah.
where a lot of women are at, I think, and this article, I should explain, this is from The Guardian. It was written in January this year by a writer called Andrew Anthony. If you want to look it up, we'll put the link in the show notes. But there's just this classic quote at the beginning, which I think is great, from Nora Ephron, who's a brilliant writer. And Andrew writes, the desire to get married is a basic and primal instinct in women. Observed the late, great Nora Ephron. It is followed by another basic and primal instinct, the desire to be single again. I thought that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
So just that, yeah, and yes, as you said, the crux of the article is that it's generally considered that middle-aged men might have an affair, buy a car, and have this midlife crisis. But actually, this recent data and studies show that it's the women that are falling out of love with their men more commonly than the men. And the reasons being much more like these little tiny indiscretions in the marriage, not indiscretions, rather just, yeah, little micro failings that have built up over years and years and years. And whereas a man can kind of, and it sort of talks about the passion that is very important to men. So as long as passion and sex is being maintained, the men are kind of happy. For the
yep,
women, it's much more complex. We need so many more things than the men. And I think for anyone that's been in a relationship for longer than 15 years, we all know. We
Yep.
know what it's like.
And I think it just yeah, like, it's just one of those
Mm,
other things that we put on our to-do list,
mm,
and I guess some people get to the point where they're just like, "Oh, I don't think I wanna put it on my to-do list anymore."
as in sex
Or
or
anything, like
yeah,
relationship, like the whole
the
thing,
whole shebang.
the
Yeah, yeah,
whole
yeah.
shebang. It's like, I think
Mm,
I'd rather take
yeah.
all of that off my to-do list because it's just doing things for other people. We're,
Mm,
looking after other people, we're nurturing other people, we're just
yeah,
still doing all the things.
yeah.
And, I honestly think it will be different for the next generation. I really do.
God, I hope so. Yeah.
I see how my son and his partner are very different. She really calls him out on, his and it's not crappy behavior. It's just, like, if she wants him to do something, she says do it. Whereas I would not have had the I don't know, courage or the spine or like and I'm pretty
Yeah.
outspoken, but I just think um they just know they're just equal
Mm,
partners, and
mm,
I see that a lot in
yeah.
younger women, young women that we know that are having babies at the moment and things like
Mm.
that, and
And
I
expecting their partner to, like, step up. Whereas I think for us, it was
absolutely.
like well, for me, maybe I speaking here is like I thought I was equal, and then I had a baby, and I was like, "What the fuck happened to our equal relationship?" It really just, it all went back to the 1950s, and it was sort of just assumed that I would take off 12 months and that I would go part time, and there was never really a conversation. And then because you're the one at home, you do the washing, you do the cooking, you do the shopping because you're at home. And it wasn't until probably a few years later that I realized that no, I'm not okay with this. And we have since had conversations, but I think there are a lot of women that haven't had those conversations. The communication has dropped off, resentment builds, and once resentment's there, oh my gosh, it's so,
It's really
so
hard.
hard to come
Yeah.
back from that. It's I just quickly, I just this was really, I thought it was interesting. Joanna Harrison, she's a former divorce lawyer, and she was spoken to for this article, and she was saying that it is women who more often petition for divorce than the men, and it's because, and she talks about, she's written a book about why the washing up matters, and I think that's just making a point
Yeah.
that yeah, it's the little things, they do matter. And yeah, and the expression they used in the article, just to clarify, was micro grievances, as opposed to micro failures. So
Or
I think
microaggressions.
yeah, yeah, that's right. So it's the micro grievances that really add up. And I think that us women in midlife, we're feeling it. And my heart, and thoughts go out to you if you're currently in that situation. You are not alone. Oh
You're
my gosh,
really not
you
alone,
are really
and
not. No.
if there's any way that you can find yourself back or, find a
Mm,
way back to each other,
mm.
have those conversations
Yes, the
before you
chats.
can't
Mm,
before you get to the point of no return,
yeah.
before you're crossing the Nullarbor in a car together.
Yep, yep. That sounds really far and really boring. Yep.
Can I go on the surf trip?
We'll swap. No, I don't think I want to go on the Nullarbor either. I'm staying here. You can go on the surf trip for sure.
Not that I can surf, but it sounds more like what I would like to do.
For
I will
sure.
fly across the Nullarbor. I just
Yeah.
won't sit in a car. For
Yeah,
for
it's a long way, it's a
for
long way.
context, I'm not a good passenger, and
Yeah.
I, yeah, get very yes, I'm not a great passenger.
No, fair enough. Kathy, we're gonna end this episode with some recommendations. We've got a book, we've got a TV show each. What's your book?
My book is Tilda is Visible by Jane Tara. I've got to be honest, it piqued my interest because I really think I'm invisible.
Mm,
And I don't know, I think I saw it on Instagram. I really don't know how I came
mm.
across it. Anyway, I'm sort of a little bit into it. I'm not fully through it.
Is it fiction
I'm
or nonfiction?
it's fiction. It's someone I know has read the whole thing and they raved about it.
Okay.
I'm loving it so far. It's woman who was diagnosed with invisibility,
Oh,
and she wasn't, like, super surprised by that. This is not a spoiler alert. This is on the back of the book. She'd felt invisible for years. So, for me, that's why I was like, "Oh, I need to read this book."
and so can I clarify, when she's diagnosed with invisibility, she was like, this is a kind of
Yeah, she's,
like
like, invisible,
she's
like,
actually invisible. So it's kind of
actually
a little bit
invisible.
sci-fi in the sense that it's
Yeah.
not real life, but it's
No,
like
it's not.
almost real life. I
Yeah,
see. It's a kind of
yeah,
yeah, got it, like a
yeah.
pun on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, she's lost sight of who she is and everything,
Sounds
and
super relatable and
yeah,
perfect.
and
Yeah.
then she becomes visible. I'm,
Okay.
not at the end. We will certainly, recap that when we come to the end of the season,
Yeah.
because I will have finished it. I'm such a slow reader these days, so I'm lucky if I get 5 to 10 pages out a night, honestly.
But you've kind of sold it to me. I'm intrigued by the concept and,
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
I'm really loving it and
okay.
really, really, and I've got a second one on the go, I will
Mm.
admit, that's probably why I
Yeah, you're
take
taking your
so long.
time. Yeah.
I'm reading Friendaholic by Elizabeth Day.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so anyone who knows
Love her podcast,
her
How to
podcast,
Fail. Mhm.
it's How to Fail. I went and saw her live when she was in Sydney, and it was, like, fabulous. My
Mm.
mum bought me tickets, and it was really fabulous. Had a great
Mm.
night out. I got to pose a question to her, and so I'm loving her book as well.
What's it about? Is it about
So
friendships?
yeah, it's,
Mm.
she collected friends,
Mm.
but she came to realize that you actually can't have as many friends as what she had, like, you
Mm.
can't maintain friendships on that huge level, and
Mm.
something that she discovered during COVID. She was really missing that connection, and I've got to say that that was something that was really hard for me during COVID, when I couldn't see my people. I don't have a massive circle of friends. I have some, but not being able to just touch. I know that
Yes.
sounds
No,
random,
not at
but,
all.
like,
I felt the same way. I hate it. I hated
not
COVID.
that I couldn't touch people, because
Mm.
obviously I had my husband, I had my children, I had, th
Mm.
there were people that I could, but I craved, like, in deep in my soul, needing to be able to see other people, but
Mm.
really see them in
Mm.
person, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what Elizabeth's book is about as well. So, 2
Mm.
fabulous books that I'm really, really, really loving at the moment.
Okay. They sound great, and I have not read either, and
Mhm.
I as a Elizabeth Day fan, I will definitely check that one out, and the other one I hadn't heard of. I mean, I'd seen it in the shop, but I definitely sounds like
Yeah,
up
no,
my street.
you
Yeah.
would love it. You will love
Okay.
it.
All right. Well, I've got a book recommendation, and interestingly, it's written by a guest of season two, forthcoming guest. Trish Bolton is the author. She is an amazing writer. This is her first novel, and it's called Whenever You're Ready, and it's a story of friendship.
Ooh.
But what I loved about it is that Trish is in her early 60s. She might only just be 60 actually, but this book was her first book. She had it published around her 60th year. And the characters in the book are all friends in their 60s and heading towards their 70s, I believe, some of them. And Lizzie, Alice, two buddies. And at the start of the book, this is not a spoiler because it's literally the first chapter, their friend Claire dies.
Mhm.
And it's about yeah, it's really sad, and oh my god, I cried so much reading this book, but it was in a cathartic way, and this book, just these women in the book were like people I want in my life. I wish they were wish they were real people, especially, Lizzie, and Alice, the 2 main female characters and friends, and they're kind of it tracks their friendship and their ups and downs of life, their relationships with their kids Alice doesn't actually have kids in the book, but it's really so there's multi-generations
Yep.
covered, there's grandkids involved, relationships, bad relationships. But I just love that these women were still having sex and still having and hopes and dreams in their 60s. And I think I just loved it. It filled my soul. I look forward to reading it every night. It was like a lovely, nurturing hug with good friends. Yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough. I think go read it. If I'm just trying to think of a sort of similar book, it's not a mystery or anything, but the way that she writes about friendship is was just it was just beautiful. I just loved it. So that's my book recommendation.
Wow. Well, I
Mm.
can't wait to get it on my TBR pile, which is ever growing.
Oh, yeah, my same, same. But also I can't wait to speak to Trish about it and all
I
of the
know,
inspiration
I know.
behind the
I
story.
mean,
So, yeah.
yeah, very exciting. Can't wait to speak to Trish. And I love that there seems to be a bit of a resurgence of books at the moment that
Mm.
have really strong female characters. And
Yeah, I wouldn't say not even a resurgence, just a surgence. Is that a
yeah,
thing?
yeah, yeah, possibly. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's some really great books out there at the moment that have
Yeah.
got some really strong female leads.
You've
So
just done so much, you realize by the age, I feel like at 45, but by 65, your life has been so, so multi-layered, so much has happened to you. Of course, you make a great character in a book. And that's why I struggled sometimes reading books where the main characters are in their 20s. I'm like, you haven't done anything yet. It's interesting, but come on, you're still starting. You've barely started. So yeah, it's really great. And so onto movies or TV shows. I'll just quickly share mine. I feel like I've babbled on, but Poor Things. I finally watched it. It won lots of awards in this year's award seasons. It's starring Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, and Mark Ruffalo. And it is I don't know if it's like a British American. It's set in London, but it's a really, oh my God, it's so odd. It's the oddest film, but it's also quite explicit. So don't watch it with your kids or teenage children. They're going to be embarrassed. Lots of sex scenes. It's about a guy, he's a little bit kind of, Frankenstein, and he creates, essentially Emma Stone. He makes all these it's set in the 1800s. He is a scientist. He experiments on animals, and it sounds really weird, and it is weird, but Emma Stone has her brain removed because she's dead as an adult human and replaced with a baby's brain, newborn baby's brain.
Ew.
She's brought back to life, so she's kind of this adult woman with the brain of a baby, and he tracks her as she kind of learns how to walk, how to speak, and he's kind of watching her like a science experiment, and it's kind of like her emancipation as a woman, her learning, and it's just fascinating. It's so fascinating. I cannot, yeah, cannot. Again, another really big recommendation. Go watch it. It's the weirdest thing. I need to talk to someone about it, please. If you've watched it, tell me. I need to know what you thought about it. It was the weirdest, most engaging film I've seen in a long time.
well, I haven't seen it, so
Okay, yeah, I
I
figured.
can't yeah, like, if you could see my face,
Yeah, it's
people,
one
like,
of
honestly,
confusion.
it's like, "Oh my
Yeah.
goodness," and
Yeah.
I'm not
It
sure
sounds
that
really, really weird, but I really recommend it. So please watch it and then we can talk about it.
yeah, I'm not sure
Mm,
it's high
okay,
on
it's not
my
for
list.
you. All right. Okay. Well, someone out
Possibly
there
not.
will.
Well, yeah,
Maybe you
and
will.
given when you hear my recommendation, um, so I love my, British crime, murder, mystery
Oh, look, me
TV
too.
shows.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, I've been a fan, like, I swear to God, I as was a 70-year-old woman in my 30s,
Mm.
well, no, probably not 30s, 40s. Uh,
Hmm.
there was this show called Death in Paradise, and
It's Toby's favorite. He's a 13-year-old boy. My
I
son
love
loves
it.
it.
I love it.
Loves it. I
Um,
like it too. How could you not
and
like it?
it's, French British, and,
Set on a beautiful Caribbean island,
Sainte Marie,
gorgeous
which is
scenery.
actually Guadalupe, which is
Yep.
the, like, actual place.
Yeah. It's
Anyway, and
beautiful.
the English actors have to go and live there for 6 months while they film. That sounds terrible.
Terrible job. Yeah.
Um, and they've had 4, main, like, the
Detectives.
detectives,
Yeah.
and, and they're all a bit, like, odd and quirky, like,
Bit
the
hapless.
yeah, and the typical odd, quirky British
Yes, a bit
man
stuffy and yes.
Duffy who,
Yeah.
goes and, like, doesn't like sand or is allergic to the sun or, all these really,
Really
uh,
pale.
yeah, really random quirky things. Anyway,
Yep.
they come to love living on this magical island, how could you not?
Yeah.
Um, and that's been going for 13 seasons, but I think it was around about season 11 or 12, I don't know.
Mm,
There was, one of the DIs was Chris Humphrey, who was in a show, I think it was called Outnumbered. He was
mhm,
one of the kids on the show, and it was a British show, and it was, like,
mhm.
parents, and it was a comedy, and they had
Yeah.
3 kids,
Yes. Very funny. I
and it was
remember it. Yeah.
hilariously funny,
Yeah.
and he then was one of the
Oh,
DIs and,
okay.
on Death Death in Paradise.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know how there is any people left living in Sainte Marie because
Yeah.
it's a
It's a
little bit
small
like
island.
Blue Heelers for any of
Mm.
those Australian followers. Everybody lived in Mount St Thomas, and there was so much murder and crime in this, like, 2-horse town. It's a little bit like that in Sainte Marie,
Mhm, mhm.
there's like 100 people live there, but there's, 13 seasons of murder.
Yeah. Is it
Anyway,
Chris Marshall? Is that who you're talking
Chris
about?
oh,
This
yeah, sorry,
is
did I
that
get
guy.
yes, Chris
Yes,
Marshall,
Chris
not
Marshall. Just
Trish
just
Humphries. I just
yeah, I just looked
I
him up, and Chris Humphries was a basketball player
no,
briefly.
you know what? His name in his character in the show,
Yeah.
D.I. Humphries.
Okay,
So
got it,
I've
right.
got him
Chris
in
Marshall. Yeah, he's in
Chris
Love Actually as
Marshall.
well.
Yes, he's Love Actually.
Yeah.
It's really great. He's a fabulous actor. But anyway, that brings me to
Okay. Oh, Jesus, it's not that recommendation.
no, that's not my
Oh
recommendation.
my
Although
gosh.
Death in Paradise is fabulous,
Yeah.
he is in a spin-off of Death
Okay.
in Paradise called Beyond Paradise.
Oh.
And he left Death in Paradise, he left Sainte Marie,
Mhm.
and he went back to the UK, and he followed the love of his life that he met in Sainte Marie, Martha, and I'm watching the 2nd season now. I
Okay. Available
realized
on ABC iView, I'm
no,
assuming?
Binge. Well,
Binge.
sorry,
Yeah.
folks, it's a streaming app.
Mm.
But it is fab, and I do love it, and yeah,
Okay.
I'm just a sucker for a bit of a British crime drama, murder
Yeah. It's
mystery,
very even though it's murdery, it's also quite I don't know, it's kind of
it's
like
quite wholesome, like,
cup
it's not
yeah,
like
cup of tea and, like, it's not graphic normally, it's quite
no,
it's all more
yeah,
about the solving the murder, isn't it? The solving
'cause
part.
it's cryptic,
It's
there's always
cryptic.
an
Yes.
it's a little bit
It's
like
the
a cryptic
whodunit.
it's a
Yeah.
cryptic crossword in
Mm.
a murder mystery.
But not that
It's
hard. It's not that hard. Normally
um,
you can have a bit of a guess, can't you? There's
uh,
normally, like, 3 main suspects. You can
I don't
probably
know,
you could probably
sometimes
have a
I get
go.
a bit, "What?" Maybe it's my addled, brain
Yeah.
that I get a bit confused and go, "Oh,
Mm.
didn't see
Who
that
was
one
that?
coming."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway,
Okay, I
that's
love it. I'm
my
sure I'll love it. I'm sure I'll enjoy it,
you
and
would
as will
love it.
Toby. Yeah, as will
Yes,
my
and,
13-year-old. Mm.
yes, and so, yeah, I guess 2 shows in one there really, Death in
Yeah.
Paradise and Beyond Paradise, so
Wonderful.
yes. Anyway, I think that's really enough from us. We've
Mm.
waffled way too long. We were gonna waffle for just only a short time but
We
get
had lots of ground to cover, and I think that's totally fine. Season
yeah.
2, we're kicking it off with a few, recommendations, and, yeah, we hope you enjoy the episode.
And we have a fantastic season planned for you, and we hope you love it as much as we've loved putting it all together for you.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.